In just a matter of weeks, the US-Iran conflict triggered the largest crude oil supply disruption in history. We watched Brent crude shoot past $120 a barrel as the conflict peaked. But then, almost as quickly, prices plunged right back below $100. Why? Well, it's largely driven by a highly speculative US-Iran peace memorandum. But as you'll see today, a temporary peace deal absolutely does not mean a return to the old normal. The entire foundation of the global energy market has permanently shifted.
Here is our roadmap for today's briefing. First, we'll look at the immediate supply crisis. Second, the UAE abandoning the cartel. Third, diplomatic chess and trade strategy. Fourth, bypassing the Hormuz chokepoint. And finally, the risks to your portfolios and decarbonization timelines.
All right. Part 1. The immediate supply crisis. Let's assess that initial market shock.
So that conflict back in late February essentially slammed the door shut on the Strait of Hormuz. Think of this waterway as the global economy's jugular vein. It literally chokes off a massive 1/5, 20% of the world's daily oil supply. This wasn't just some localized skirmish. It exposed a profound systemic vulnerability in the entire global economic system. And the economic fallout, immediate and totally cascading. Regional production plummeted by an unprecedented 10 million barrels a day. Why? Because producers quite literally ran out of storage capacity. Qatari liquefied natural gas exports were completely stranded, forcing a massive force majeure. And hey, the impact went way beyond energy. Because the Gulf states rely on that exact same strait for over 80% of their food imports, we saw a concurrent grocery supply emergency that triggered massive consumer price spikes. It just proves that geopolitical crises hit the produce aisle just as hard as the gas pump. Globally, commercial oil stockpiles were drained to record lows, which sent inflation fears absolutely soaring, especially across energy-dependent Asian markets. Moving on to part 2, the UAE abandons the cartel. We're talking about the structural collapse of OPEC. Now, to really grasp the gravity of this geopolitical earthquake, we have to contrast two totally different models. Traditionally, OPEC relies on really strict, restrictive coordination managed by Saudi Arabia, where members artificially limit their production to prop up global prices. Well, the UAE is tossing that playbook completely out the window. They are asserting total sovereign market independence, breaking away from Saudi Arabia's leadership. They just aren't playing by the cartel's rules anymore. And you know, the primary motive here really boils down to simple math. Under those old OPEC quotas, the UAE was forced to cap its production at roughly 3.6 million barrels per day. By cutting the cord, they can unleash their massive spare capacity, targeting over 5 million barrels per day. This is a highly calculated move to aggressively monetize their fossil fuel assets and secure vital sovereign revenue before the global energy transition closes that window of opportunity for good. Okay, part 3, diplomatic chess and trade strategy. Let's look at how navigating peace talks and alliances is reshaping the region. Let's trace how fast this all moved. After the war broke out in February and that crippling blockade hit in March, the UAE officially made its historic exit from OPEC on May 1st. But then, late May brought a sudden pivot. With Saudi and UAE diplomatic relations deeply fractured by this exit, Pakistan stepped up as a necessary mediator, helping broker a tentative, preliminary peace memo between the US and Iran, aimed at gradually reopening the strait. The political reactions across the globe have been fascinating. The US administration actually views the UAE's departure from OPEC as a massive geopolitical victory. US President Donald Trump praised the move, noting its potential to bring global fuel prices down. The broader strategy here for Washington is to really leverage the Abraham Accords. They want to cement a Western-aligned bilateral security framework with the UAE completely outside the traditional OPEC structure, aiming to lock in regional stability. But we need to balance that political optimism with some stark market realities. Rystad analyst Jorge Leon warns that the longer-term implication here is a structurally weaker OPEC. With the UAE gone, Saudi Arabia is left to shoulder this immense burden of stabilizing prices all on its own. That creates severe structural friction and vastly increases the likelihood of internal cartel instability. After all, other nations like Iraq might just be tempted to jump ship as well. Which brings us to part 4, bypassing the Hormuz chokepoint and securing the future of energy transport. So if you are assessing risk right now, here is the absolute crucial takeaway: the UAE's 4-step survival strategy. Step 1, exit the cartel. Step 2, aggressively ramp up production to maximize revenue. Step 3, reroute that crude entirely away from the Persian Gulf. And step 4, secure, strong bilateral security pacts with the West. They are systematically insulating themselves from future regional volatility.
And if you need proof that this is a permanent structural shift, just look at the physical infrastructure being built. Regardless of any temporary peace memos signed in May, the UAE is going full steam ahead on constructing a second major pipeline slated for completion by 2027. This is designed to permanently circumvent the volatile Strait of Hormuz, guaranteeing their crude can reach the global market even if that waterway is ever shut down again.
Finally, Part 5, Portfolio and Decarbonization Risks. Let's look at the actual prognosis for energy investors. When we view this market through an analyst lens right now, we see a system that is incredibly fragile. We're currently staring down the barrel of what economists call a non-linear adjustment. Because global inventories were so massively depleted by the blockade, any failure in these current diplomatic peace talks won't just bump oil prices up a buck or two. We're talking about a chaotic, rapid repricing that will violently spread across global LNG, shipping, agricultural fertilizers, and basic industrial inputs. And the long-term outlook? Just as steep. A fracture cartel drastically increases the risk of OPEC price wars, leading to severe structural market volatility. Think about it. If oil prices crash due to unrestrained production, that stable capital we desperately need for the global green energy transition is totally disrupted. That threatens serious delays to global decarbonization timelines. At the same time, the UAE is fast-tracking its fossil fuel monetization, flooding the market to generate cash right now. For investors, this creates a massive danger of stranded energy assets simply because the pricing models you've relied on for decades are being thrown out the window. I want to leave you with this final critical thought today. The old rules of OPEC price management are crumbling before our eyes. As millions of barrels of production capacity shift completely outside of cartel controls, is your corporate portfolio truly prepared for a decade of unrestrained, highly volatile energy price competition? It's definitely time to radically reevaluate your long-term energy risk assessments. Thank you so much for joining this intelligence briefing.